Hey.
All right, Pat, I have some information here now. I think it's pretty accurate, but if any of it is inaccurate, we'll dive right into it. You could correct me. But welcome to the Bocce Bros podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're happy to be back. And with us today, we have someone special who's been around the bocce game for longer than I know, and I am looking forward to finding out. He's the president of the Ontario Bocce Association, the current vice president of the Canadian Bocce Association, 4-time Polino d'Oro champion, 7-time Canadian club champion, 5-time Ontario Bocce Association Singles League champion, and 2-time Cleveland Challenge Cup of Bocce champion, with a couple of runner-ups, if I'm not mistaken. Pat Pezzin, who hails from Canada. Welcome to the show, Pat. How are you?
Thanks for that was a great intro, but being on the podcast even more special. So.
Oh wow! And one-time appearance on the Bocce Bros podcast, Pat Pezzin, ladies and gentlemen,
Legend.
Yeah, and professional gambler, which I need to. I'll get more into, but thank you for joining us today, Pat. We appreciate it. I'm looking forward to diving into your history of the game. The history of Canada, which I have heard so much about, who's traveled to Ohio and in the great depths all over the United States. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, the weather's good here in Canada, and I just enjoyed the day and ready for this podcast.
Love it. Yeah, we appreciate you having being on here today. Now you're in Canada now, but you're traveling actually to Ohio. What's today? Wednesday.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's 4th of July. What better way to celebrate the 4th of July with a podcast with someone from Canada?
Great.
He's come. Yeah, what a great weekend for him to come down.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And he's coming down for the Jerry's World Doubles Tournament, which is a double elimination tournament on Friday and Saturday. And Cooge will be there.
Of course.
He's at every tournament, and I think the winner of his game will play Pat. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. This is my first time at Jerry's World, but I'm pretty sure it's starting Saturday morning.
Oh, Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Yeah, so it's a one-day tournament, and I've heard a lot of great things about Jerry's World. There, I haven't been there before, and heard there's debatably some of the best courts and dirt courts in the country.
Yeah, he's definitely done a great job. Originally, he started with 2 courts, and then he said, you know what, why not build a third? And just everything he's done with just how they're prepared, the coverage, the garage doors on the side, the lighting, as well as the electronic scoreboards. He's done a great job.
It's unbelievable, actually, because there's also, we've talked about it on this podcast before, but Pat, when you get there, you'll see there's probably going to be a softball game going on, like a girls' softball, like the whole like city's there. So you have 100 people for a bocce tournament, but in the backyard you also have 300 people there for a softball game.
Yeah, I had a buddy. He sent me a picture. He goes, "I think this is where you play bocce." He went to watch his cousin play softball.
So it's a league. It's a baseball league that plays out of his place.
Yeah. He's very Jerry and the Fletchers are some of the nicest people around, and they're very giving. So he has a very nice field and beyond the bocce courts, and he allows the public or the city of Chesterland to use it for sanctioned games, leagues, and he also holds leagues at his house in his 3 courts. So he has like 2 days a week, maybe more. I might be misquoting there. But so people all show up to his house. He has the bar going and all of it.
Awesome. Can't wait for it.
Now, I know we just talked about the 4th of July, but wasn't it, and I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, wasn't it Canada Day yesterday or the day before?
July 1st, yes. July 1st was Canada Day, so everyone had the day off here. It's not as big as July 4th.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a national holiday here on July 1st.
Do you guys do any annual tradition, cookout or anything like that for it?
People get together. I had a few people over, a barbecue at my place, and then there's the fireworks shows at all the parks and stuff like that. So
nice.
Again, not as big as the U.S., but we're in the shadows of the U.S. here.
Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the U.S. obviously goes above and beyond with whatever they do, whether it's 4th of July, eating, being loud, all that. So.
Being loud, especially, that's definitely one. And you're gonna witness that this weekend. I warned you, loud music. You might not be used to that, but hopefully you like country music. If not, you're either gonna love it or hate it in a couple of days.
As I get older, I become more Yeah, right wing and country.
Salute to that. Well, Pat, I want to dive into this because I want to give you my perspective. And I'm new to the game. We're all newish to the game. You know, I say that we're 3 going on 4 years, just coming around and getting to know a little bit more. You know, and I hear about Jose playing, and then I try to see who he's playing with, and I see Pezzin. I'm like, all right, the guy must be damn good if he's playing with Jose, just from all I've heard about Jose. And this is coming from someone new to the game, not knowing what the hell's going on. So I want to know more about you and know, you know, how you got into the game, and just try to give us a little intro bio about yourself. And, you know, how'd you stumble? How'd you and Jose become friends and start playing together and all of it? So dive in when you want.
Okay, yeah. So I started playing bocce. My dad was a bocce player, and my uncle. So I came from a bocce family. My dad and his uncles were the first team to travel to the U.S. for bocce, and they went to the World Series in Rome, and they won the Rome tournament for 5 years.
What year? I'm sorry, Pat, because I want to.
That'd be the early '80s.
Early '80s. Okay.
And you said they won 5 times.
They won 5 times, and that opened the floodgates to Canada. So it's kind of, the Canadians were back in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure a lot of the OGs that are listening know from the 90s. Rainbow Creek, Villabayano, Chicharro Club. The Canadians would come and just dominate the tournaments, and let's say they were the Jose's of bocce at the time, and a lot of the Americans picked up pointers from them, and they improved. So you can only be as good as your competition, right? So they picked up a lot of the underhand shooting and stuff like that, and they really introduced the game to a lot of. They're the Vander brothers and stuff like that, the old school players that were good as well. But they were all, these players that came from Canada were all Italians. They were born in Italy. They moved here. Most of us younger players. Well, I'm not young anymore, but our first generation Canadians. We're not second, third generation. So the roots were pretty close still. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, for bocce, you're still kind of young.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in the middle now.
You haven't even hit your prime yet.
Yeah.
Let's go over the hill.
Yeah. Now, Canada predominantly, probably prior to coming to Ohio, only played PRV, or no?
No. So back in the 80s, 90s, they were playing more open bocce, but backboard dead still.
Okay.
But they did play PRV, but it wasn't PRV. There was no mandatory volo back in the day. They only introduced mandatory volo in 2001, I believe.
You know what? I was just gonna say, and just a quick segue here. I was just told last week at Nationals that the D line, or like the Rafa rule, wasn't a thing until about 12, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a little longer because it's been 2001.
So that was the same with that. Okay.
When they made the rule changes in 2001, which I don't necessarily agree with, but they added the D line, so there was only the A, B, and C. So you only have to get your ball over the C line, which is 3 meters. So let's say 10 feet versus now you have to get it over 5 meters, which is closer to 16 feet.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference. So a lot of the open players that play right now, they probably get it out 10 feet. And it's unfortunate that this D line, that they introduced this D line at the time. Well, it was to make it more competitive because the South Americans only really shot volo. So to make them more competitive and to attract them to the World Championships, they added this mandatory volo zone, and they created this D line and to get the ball over, and that was the inception of it in 2001.
Okay, that's a good history lesson. That's just something I'm so unaware of and so new to, especially the PRV world. So that's very good to know. So let's backtrack here. You said Canada would then travel. Your father, who I was told actually by some folks here, Brian Polance, that he was a great player, a fantastic player. They started coming over to Ohio, the first ones too. What do you gauge their thoughts on the backwall live mess that some people won't even travel to, or call it circus bocce, or whatever they throw the names at?
Right. Well, I can't. speak for them, but I can speak for myself. I think that all forms of bocce, there's different skill sets for each game. If it's open, if it's back wall dead or it's PRV, whatever it is, there's a different skill set, and it's hard to play all three because it's also a different mindset in the fact that when I see some PRV players playing open, the game calling is completely off, and vice versa when you start playing backboard dead, some of the game calling is off for the open players and stuff like that. So it's hard to adjust to all three games, but in all three, I think the better skill is going to win. Now, I'm not saying that open are more skillful than backward dead or PRV or any other combination. I think everybody, whatever their home game is, they tailor the games to that, and and again, I think the best players win the tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this earlier about how people would watch back in the day, a lot of the Canadians play and learn from them and get better, right? When we were introduced to Backwall Dead, it was very similar to that. We watched some of the better players, better teams play Backwall Dead. We learned the strategy. And, I get other people not being acceptable to change or wanting to play if they just don't have as much fun with those rule changes, right? But if you do want to play, because I still think open is a lot of fun, like you said, you just got to continue to watch and learn from other players, talk to them, and figure out the different strategies of it. But yeah,
I agree completely. I think that of all tournaments I do play, I think Wycliffe INA is probably the most entertaining tournament I play, and then Rome New York, same thing, just a little less because the more east you go, a little. Let's just say it's a little different. But,
that's a good way to put it.
Right, but yeah, it's any bocce player. That doesn't matter if you're PRV or just a big field. Winning in a big field tournament, a major, you call it a major or whatever. It's so key. It's so big. It's exciting to do, and you do it as a team. Where most of our PRV stuff is individual. It is great to win as a single player, but it's also really rewarding to win as a team as well.
What would you say feels better, winning in a singles tournament or winning in a team event?
Well, because for personally myself, winning my Polino Doros in Canada was very prestigious to me because that was our big tournament of the year.
Can you explain real quick, Pat? Explain for the folks what Polino Doro is.
So Polino Doro would be just like your men's. Well, it could be co-ed, but your singles championship. So we don't have a nationals week. We have two major tournaments. Nationally, which is our Canadian Club Championships, which is a team of 4, and you play triples, doubles, singles. And then we have a singles championship. So the single championships is called the Polino Doro.
And you've won that 4 times? 7 times?
I won the club championships 7 times. That's a team of triples, doubles, singles. And then I won the Polino Doro 4 times. With 2 runner-ups, 1 to Jose. So 1 year we let we let Americans come.
Wait a minute. I was going to say, how did he sneak his way in there?
Yeah. So for a while we were letting Americans play our Polino Doros, but none of them won. So it was okay. And they became American.
I'll take their money.
Yeah, come on. You play Backwall Live. Come play for you.
All right. Sorry. I know.
Jose came in, I think it was 2012 to Montreal, and he won the tournament. I finished second to him. So I was still top Canadian, but he won the tournament. But and then the Canadians, because it's also our qualifier for our World Championships as well. So we couldn't have Americans really affecting the outcome of our Canadian team.
Right.
So we decided, or the Canadian Federation decided to just make it Canadians only.
Smart.
So Pat, can you talk a little about the international federation, like how it consists of, or how you guys play into that, or who represents what? Because no one's really talked about on the pod, or like how international works and how United States, Canada, and other countries like become part of that. Right.
So there's the CBI, which is the World Federation, let's call them. each country pays into them. They pay a membership dues, and then they just recently changed their qualifying. So the last Worlds I went to was 2019, which was in Argentina, and there it was open to any country that pays their dues, or any country that's part of the federation can send players to that event. And in that event, we had there's 21 men that played the singles. There was 19 females that played the singles, and then there was 19 mixed teams, female, which is the same Worlds as 2024 this year. So there was only 21, 19, and 19, and now they changed the whole process in qualifying by regions, and they're trying to get to 20. So I don't know, to make all these qualifications, even when it was open, you're only getting 21, 19, 19. Why are you trying to make these people qualify to go to the World Championships? But they wanted it separated by region. So right now, for example, Europe has 7 spots. Asia has 4 spots. Africa has 4 spots. And South America, which was the Pan America, has 4 spots. No problem. So Pan America has 4 spots, but and Canada and US were supposed to go to South America to qualify, and as long as we finish in the top 4, we go to the Worlds. But it's not really that cost effective, because anybody that's traveled to South America knows that it's quite far, and there's not that many connecting flights. All these tournaments that they do are in small towns in Argentina or Brazil. So yeah, you fly to Buenos Aires or something, but then you got to wait 20 hours for a connecting flight to the small town. So it takes you 2 days to get there just to qualify. Then you have to fly back, and then you have to travel all the way to Europe for a World Championship. It becomes quite expensive. So we decided, Canada and North America, Canada and US decided that we wanted our own spot. We didn't want to have to go to South America to qualify.
Right.
So it took a while, but they finally gave us a spot, but they didn't really give us a spot. So we have this. So the host country has a spot, and they're automatically in. So like in the World Cup, for example, if you're hosted, you're automatically into the tournament for soccer. Same for bocce. So this year, Turkey or Turkiye is hosting the World Championships. They have an automatic spot, but they gave it to North America. So in North America, we don't even have a spot.
Interesting.
So we're lobbying to have our own spot, but right now the host country is giving us a spot.
Well, that's nice of them. Shout out to Turkey. But
yeah,
so that adds. I have many questions on that. Then, so North America, then technically we have one spot, but technically it's not even really our spot. They were given to us. What's the lobbying that needs to be done? What do we need to do to show the group? Do they just not think we play? And I get it. We don't really have a lot of PRV players, but that's changing. But what does it take to show them that we deserve a seat at the table?
Right. So our seat was at the Pan America. So, but for some reason, when I had a meeting with the CBI president, he thought, traveling to South America was like traveling in Europe. Is only a 3-hour flight or something, and it isn't that. So they're like, oh, okay, so it's a little tough. Okay, so we'll do this, but eventually we'll get you a spot. It still hasn't happened. Hopefully for the next Worlds we do have a spot. The thing is, it's kind of impossible to give us 2 spots because there's only 2 countries playing. If we had Mexico playing and there was 3 countries, maybe we could get 2 spots and qualify that way. But because we only have 2 countries participating, it's kind of hard to give 2 spots, because then we're both automatically in. So because they want to make it more prestigious to qualify to this event, they can only give us 1 spot.
So
Pat, does that mean that Canada and US really need to play each other to send who goes?
Well, real quick, Anthony, it's what before Pat answers that. Yeah, so like we've been told, and we were incorrectly told, and kind of want to set the stage here for Pat. But the Nationals just took place last week, and there's been a lot of posts of so and so is now going to Turkey to represent the United States Bocce Federation. Well, basically what Pat and Anthony just alluded to was, wait a minute, there's another stage here. Canada has yet to have their qualifiers, and so I just wanted to kind of, for our listeners, kind of lay that out for you. So sorry, Anthony, and go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, so congratulations on National. I watched a bunch of it, and as much as other Canadians watched it as well. The BBN does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do a great job. It's great to watch PRV tournaments. So a lot of us watched it, and it was I guess it was disrespectful what we were hearing. Maybe it's misleading. It's been not only disrespectful to the Canadians, but it's also disrespectful to the players that were playing in the tournament. Because as a president of the Ontario Bocce Association and a player, I make it very because it's a conflict of interest to play and be president. You have to make it very clear what the rules are before the tournament starts, and it should be very clear what you guys were playing for. And it's disappointing because there was a letter sent out February 24th by the CBI, which stated that Canada, US were getting one spot via the host. There's been no email since. US believes that there might be two spots. Another country might give us their spot, or not a country, a region might give us their spot. But there's no word on that yet. So because there's no word on that, we have to be ready to play a qualification between the two of us, because it takes time to get uniforms, buy tickets to Turkey and whatever, prepare for that challenge. So overall, it was a little disappointing,
Hey, Pat, has that happened before where US has played Canada, and how do you guys coordinate that? Or is this one of the first times it would happen?
So this would be the first time, because so 2019, which was 2 Worlds ago, it was open to everybody. In 2022, which would have been right after COVID or whatever, the Worlds were in Turkey again, and Canada decided we didn't want to go. We didn't want to go. Whatever, there was travel restrictions, stuff like that. Nobody was interested in going, so US had all the spots. Right?
Interesting.
This time, that's not necessarily the case. So this time is not necessarily the case. So when we heard the comments, I know there's a whole president changing going on, and good luck to John and everything. Maybe he was misled. We tried to communicate earlier that this is not the way it works. A little disrespectful. Basically, I say, to steal a word, a big hawk tooth to your face.
That's a favorite part of any podcast we've done. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, going to nationals, to your point, Dante and I thought walking in there, if we win an event, we're representing US at Turkey. Period.
One of the qualifying events.
I mean, one of the qualifying events. I mean, it was never explained, to be fair, as a player. So it's nice to hear from your perspective, because it wasn't shared like that. Just to be honest.
Yeah.
Could I ask? Sorry, Pat, to cut you off. Since then, have you had communication with them? Where does everything stand right now?
So I know that Albert, who is our president in Canada, reached out to John, who's your new president, and I know they're communicating. And John is trying to, I don't want to speak for him, but I think they're trying to get a meeting together amongst the USBF to clarify or validate, confirm what we're saying is the qualification process with the CBI. If they can get it in writing that we have 2 spots, then we don't need to do a qualification. But if that isn't stated, then we need to start preparing for a qualification. Now, both countries could end up at the Worlds. So just because there's the men's singles, the women's singles, and the mixed doubles. So let's say the men's singles and the mixed doubles is won by US. They get to send their representatives. But let's say the women's singles was won by Canada. We send the women's singles only. So it can be a mixed combo. If one country sweeps all 3, then they would send all 3.
Okay.
So let me ask you a bigger question, because I know it's been kind of swirling a little bit on social media. How do you feel about the entry into the tournaments? It's been said a couple times that anyone can enter as long as you're a member of the USBF, or maybe the same way in Canada. Should there be qualifiers to then get to the final stage to then qualify for the Worlds? What's your take on the whole funnel to get to the top?
Yeah, I heard I saw a lot of comments about the qualifiers. It's like if it's open to everybody, why do you want to qualify to go? So unless there was so much demand, like let's say Wycliffe, if there was so much demand and you need to get to only 32 players in order to run the tournament, then you need to have qualifiers. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's open to everybody that joins the USBF and there's no qualifier, then why wouldn't you just go? Now, on the opposite side, if the USBF doesn't want novice players playing because the game is streamed and you don't want to showcase players that maybe can't shoot, or
You're right.
You don't want to water down your game, so you want to show more elite players, then you want to qualify players. But I don't think the comments should come from the players. I think it should come from the organizers saying, hey, we need better players, we need certain numbers, because maybe the same people that are complaining that there should be qualifiers are now complaining that we need to qualify against Canada to go to the Worlds, right? Mm-hmm. Because if there, right, so it's both, and it's so like now we have to qualify against the U.S. Let's say we have to do a home and away, so that the U.S. team has to come to Toronto, we have to go to maybe Chicago or Palazzo, wherever it is. There's more of expenses in order to do these regional qualifiers. So it adds expenses. Like, reason we didn't want to qualify with the Pan Americas because we don't want to travel to South America. Again, more expenses. So as much as you can make it, it can be small regions and players have to qualify in that little region. I understand that part, but until it's open and the spots get filled, I don't see why it should be a qualifier. But that's just my opinion.
So I have a question. When it comes to the head-to-head match with U.S. and Canada to qualify, you mentioned a home and away match. Is that how it's structured, where U.S. will come up there and then you come down to the U.S. and play? Or is it how is that decided? And also, is it just one game that you're playing, or is it best of three, or how does that work?
So that structure hasn't been determined. It's going to have to be decided between both federations on what. Nothing has been decided yet. If it is even going to be a home and away. I know, and this is another thing that I was surprised at, because I know that our president was reaching out to your former president to say, you know, we have to start planning these qualifications, maybe the Sunday after the ABC, because that tournament's only goes on Saturday. Maybe everybody's there a Sunday at Palazzo. Maybe that would be a good opportunity to play the qualifier. Maybe the ends there. Maybe we can approach them about it or whatever. Let's work together. Let's minimize cost.
Absolutely.
It didn't seem like it went that way. So obviously the fairest way is to do a home and away. But let's say we decide to do it in the U.S. this time, then the next Worlds the qualifiers should be in Canada.
Makes sense. Vice versa.
Vice versa. So it's either home and away. It's either going to be agreed upon a home and away, and you have to find the dates amongst the busy Bocce schedules, or you have to pick one country, and the next time will be the other country.
One thing I will say, kind of to start back to the root of your conversation of how like you guys felt slighted, which I completely understand. If you're tuning in from Canada and you're enjoying the broadcast, and then you hear, yeah, the winner of this represents the North America for blah 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 blah. I definitely get that. Now I'll go out on a limb. I'll take the bullets for this one. The emails after this podcast. Historically, what I've seen is poor communication, and I can say this because, and you all, Anthony, Chris, are part of the board of bocce clubs, Italian clubs here. I'm the current president of the Columbus Italian Club. Something we all harp on is communication. Communication. They have done a poor job at communication, but I want to preface this by saying what a wonderful job the Italian America Bocce Club did with the Nationals. The entire club, all the members hosting it. I don't envy them of all the work they had to put in. But one thing I heard, and this isn't just a complaint from me, it's just from everyone, is communication. They didn't get like welcome email, just kind of like more basic stuff that doesn't take much, but shows a little disorganization. One thing that was promising, though, was John Liberto, who had many discussions with me and was, lobbying others for discussions on how he can move forward. So I will say that with the history of the poor communication and what the USBF actually does and handles bocce in America, which I don't think has been great, by any means, considering what we've done in the past 4 years and American Bocce Company and BBN has done. I have hope for the future with John Liberto and hope that the board and whoever else runs the USBF can get together and figure that stuff out. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And also, like, we don't. Unfortunately, you have to kind of take a few falls to get to where you want to be, right? And it just seems like maybe I have no affiliation, no relationship with anybody at the USBF.
Yeah, you're not a member.
Right. So I gotta figure that out. But
why? Well, why would you be a member? And I'm saying that for a reason, because that's John Liberto asked me that same question too. He's like, why would those guys be a member? You know, we got to figure something out. So they're figuring it out, which is good.
Yeah. I do think there are a ton of really good players that would be successful in that tournament. It's just there's nothing really that excites them, or maybe nothing like that. Maybe just the communication and the way that they market themselves, right? Like, the reason why we've been successful in BBN, ABC, whoever else, is because of the way that we're able to get out on social media, the content that we create. We create excitement. And I think that in order to do that, the USBF needs to follow suit.
Well, also you have people like Pat who mentioned earlier in the podcast, yeah, we'll come over to Ohio, we'll play basketball live because the best players do. Whereas I talked to someone who's a member in California, or USBF member, and they live in California or whatever, and I told them I play, I'm from Ohio, I play basketball live predominantly. They kind of like spin Hawk Tua on me. Anthony was there. They're like, and there's a nice lady and nice people, but they were like, oh, blah, blah. And now I don't hold back anymore. 3 years in, I'm just like, all right, whatever. I've taken enough smacks in the face to how we play. I just tell them, why do the best players in the country and in Canada travel to play that way sometimes? But they play predominantly open or PRV. It's like there's a reason Jose comes. There's a reason all of Canada. I've seen more Canada now than I have. Well, I just started playing, but you said they've been coming around and dominating for a while. So like there's a reason, and that's my response to them now. It's like there's a reason the best players play that way too. They play it all.
Yeah, that's a good response.
There's so many great players in Pennsylvania, Ohio area, Connecticut, New York, upstate New York. Now Kentucky too. Unbelievable. There's so many great players. Again, their game is tailored to their courts. Doesn't make sense to throw your ball out 15 feet when you don't need to. So now they have that shot, and it's hard to adjust to PRV. It doesn't mean PRV is more skillful or anything like that. It's just,
it helps you. Definitely, I've become a better player just from playing PRV and trying to be a little more accurate. But yes, to your point. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be great to see some of those players playing PRV. But
I think it's tailoring that way. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It's going that way a little bit.
Right, but I think I'm Canadian, but I think the U.S. has a great opportunity to have two different branches, or maybe they already do. I'm not even sure, but the open players should be showcased in a certain. They should be under a federation and playing in open tournaments, and they can be so big. There's so many players. There's so many great young players playing right now that it seems like it's a missed opportunity not to have everybody on that umbrella.
I'll have to say, because they reached out to us and sponsored us for a tournament, but the BPA, whoever was running that, has posted a lot, has trying to garner our attention, and they've been throwing money out and trying to just looks like conjoin. I don't know if that's what their goal is or whatever the case is, but showcase more open players, it seems like.
Yeah, there's some great players with some great characters too on the court, so, which is frowned upon in PRV. There's more of a golf etiquette or tennis etiquette that when you play a PRV, you shouldn't do certain things. You shouldn't, you can't really say, you're not supposed to say certain things.
Well, you can get carded, right? You can get a penalty or for screaming, or I don't know. You might know more about it.
I should have got carded when when Dante threw over the D line.
Oh my God! Let's bring it up, Pat.
Yeah, I missed that.
First, this would happen to us, like, because it's not like that we feel we have a target on backs by any means. That's not the case whatsoever. But being from Ohio and playing quote unquote circus bocce, how we play, we come to the PRV world, and it's the first frame of our first game of the first day of the week. And I'm going to get into this because good point, Anthony. It becomes a Bersaglio. It's in the Volo zone, Bersaglio. So I'm going to Rafa it. So I go to Rafa it. It's the fourth ball of the frame. I throw it over the D line with a little bit of backspin, hit and stick, Pat. I feel good. All right. First ball of the week. The ref calls a foul for not crossing the D line, and I for half a second was like, you know what? He's probably right. The way I throw, even though I've been practicing it, the way I throw, historically it goes before the D line, and BBN's right on it. They're like, nope, over by 2 feet. So
2 feet.
Wow. Yeah, right off.
No. I was on it.
Oh, Anthony went off, but then we got the replay
video right now, and then I went to the president. They're like, no video reviews, and I'm like, you guys. I'm like, this is why I don't play this game. I go, we do something right, we still get banned.
So
or impacted.
So yeah, so we started off hot. Anthony was hot. I was more so calming him down. So there wasn't two of us hot. But yeah, and then we ended up. So that was a big swing of the game. They got in the first. They got 2 points off of that. When in fact we could have got probably 2 or 3. And then we were just hot the rest of the game. But to add on to that, what were you saying, Pat? Go ahead.
No, understandably, and if you're a hard low shooter, the perception of that ball from the referee's point of view is it's tough because it's instant call. If the referee's on the right position, or perception is reality. So if they perceive it to be low, it's low. But you perceived it to be good, it was good, and the camera proves that you were right. It's hard to deal with.
No, 100%. And I don't envy the judges, referee. I do not want to be them because there's a lot to mentally deal with in a PRV game and pressure. However, and this gets to my point of the organization. If you're holding a qualifiers or nationals, whatever prestigious word you want to give it, spend some time to make sure every referee is properly trained. Again, don't envy these guys. They're spending their time volunteering. And that brings up another point. Maybe we raise some funds or sponsorships to pay these refs, to give them some intuition to be like, yeah, I should probably know all of these rules. Or maybe the organization can make a training video that takes 30 minutes to show, hey, here are the basic rules, or here are all the possible outcomes. Because if you're on a timer, and some officials don't know the rules, that's time wasted when it could be, it's about 10 minutes, I think, wasted at one point we counted. And that's a deterrent from some people in our area. But I will say that I think this last week was very beneficial for the game of PRV being broadcasted all week. A lot of people learned the game. I know I came away with a lot of tips. Anthony probably still didn't learn anything. But yeah, the organization's spending a little more time on officiating.
Do you want to see the shot?
Oh yeah, let's see the shot. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, pull it up.
So,
can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
All right, you see Dante here in the blue.
So the ref's going he's in the right position.
I'm glad to hear that.
Nice shot.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat.
I mean, it's over the line right there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. I feel bad putting this ref on this thing.
Shout out to Leo. That's the ref. Leo, he refed the most games out of anyone. No one wants to ref, so shout out to him. But tough.
Listen, Leo, we don't mean it because I've ref basketball games, I've ref baseball games, and it's tough. So definitely not calling you out. It's just if there's video proof, then
Tough. Yeah, refs are allowed to make mistakes. It's tough. So I think we're traveling the world playing bocce. We're the only ones that don't have a dust surface on top of the synthetic court.
Mm-hmm.
So when there is that dust surface on top of the synthetic court, the referee, when he's a little question, can go back to that spot to see the marking.
That's interesting.
And they can call it good or bad after the fact when they walk to that spot. So and they can point to the player. This is where I saw the ball land. Right now there could be another marking there, but if they should try to keep that line clean, and so that on future shots you could see if it's good or not. Unfortunately, fortunately, because I don't like that none of us like that little dust in the air, but but if you see in Italy when they play, if you watch Italian bocce, you see them sliding all the time when they shoot, because they got that surface on, they got that little layer of dust that protects the synthetic court, and and the referees have it a lot easier because they see the ball spot.
I've been watching more and more Italian bocce, and I have a question to ask because I was watching last night Formicone versus someone else, and
Savaretti maybe.
What's that?
Maybe against Savaretti in the semifinals.
That sounds about right. That sounds something like that. Good bless you if that was a sneeze. But I felt like the volo rules were slightly different. Am I wrong on that? And also, I noticed they didn't play 8 frames. They went well beyond 8 frames, or to a certain. Is that just because that's not like the Worlds or whatever? I don't know if you can speak to any of that.
Yeah, so Italian rules, they have their own set of rules, Italian rules. So there is no volo mandatory. It's all optional. It's all optional. You still got to get the ball over the D line, but it's optional volo. When it's bersaglio, you have the ball you declare, because one of my pet peeves when people call bersaglio, you're only allowed to call one ball, and that ball, whatever's bersaglio with that ball is
the target,
is valid. Right, so like in the volo zone, you're only allowed to call Polino. So when you call Polino, whatever's bersaglio with the Polino is valid as well.
Oh.
In Italy, if you were to call the Polino in that situation, the Polino has to move. So,
gotcha.
So they make it a little more difficult. Well, they take volo out, which makes it easier, but they make it more difficult on the bersaglios that the piece that you declare has to move. So if it's 2-ball, you got to declare which one's going to move. Doesn't have to be hit first, but that ball definitely has to move.
Yeah.
And instead of 70 centimeters, they use 50 centimeters.
So shorter. Okay.
They're shorter. So
that clears up so much.
Precise.
That clears up so much, because I was trying to figure it out and couldn't for the life of me.
And they played at 12 points, or they played at 10 points, whatever. So it's only the international right now that's these 8 frames, which is, they're trying, I guess they think.
I'm a fan. I like it, actually.
You do like it?
I kind of like Anthony was a fan too. Going into it, we're like, this is stupid. After like 3 games, we're like, this is great.
So you like
I thought it was great because it made the game faster, and it also made you more risk adverse or riskier in certain play calls, because you're like, I'm down by 3. There's 2 frames left. I have to make a move. Like, it changes the way you play.
I will say, sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, you can go first.
I was just going to say, add 2 frames to that, and I would love it even more, and cut it at that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I like 10 frames. Yeah, the more frames, the better. Obviously, the lower the frames, the more upsets there can be.
Yes.
Sure. So if we're playing at 12 points, then Jose is a bigger favorite than if we're playing 8 frames. Obviously.
Yeah. Down 7-0 in this, going into the 6th frame, we won. It's wild.
Oh
wow!
Who?
We had to go to overtime when we played Dan and his wife. No, me.
Oh, I was gonna say co-ed.
Yeah. That's great.
That's crazy. So
forgot about that.
I'm not a big fan of it, just because people need to learn how to. Because a little old school, I guess. People need to learn how to win. So when when they're sitting on 11, they're getting that 12th point is a little tough. Or when they're sitting on 13 and you're playing against some good players, and they can fight it off and they make some big comebacks. So if it's a clock or if it's frames, time is running out on the other team, so you can win the game instead of you learning how to win the game, which is a skill set that's going to be lost if we go with 8 frames all the time.
Do you play that way in Canada as well?
No, we played at 12 points.
Yeah, I know I haven't played in it, but I agree 100% with what you're saying. I mean,
your perspective is actually important.
You're talking about mine.
Yeah, because you don't play PR. You've never played a game of PRV.
Right, but it's like, why would I travel to play 8 frames? 2, you're going to tell me that somebody can beat me 6-4 or 6-5. Like, that just doesn't make much sense to me.
There
were games that were 5-4, Chris.
A lot of them were like that. None of them went to 12.
So imagine traveling to Turkey and you lose 5-4.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Everybody asked me, like, hey, why didn't you go? Because they saw Anthony and Dante on the stream. And I'm like, well, a lot of it's personally, like I couldn't do it. Plus I was out of town for work. But the other part is like, I just don't want to play with 8 frames. Like that just doesn't really excite me all that much. So when we talk about trying to get more people there and you tell them you have to spend over $1,000 for your weekend for stay, if you go out to eat, this and that, that's a big turnoff in my eyes. So that's good that you guys. Maybe I'll become a Canadian citizen and I'll just go up there.
Dual citizen. We have family in Hamilton. Yeah. Lots of family in Hamilton.
Oh wow, yeah, great. So I do think when the federations combine and decide to do this qualifier, that we're going to have to do A-frames just because that's what the Worlds is going to be.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to work the top down. So if that's what they're doing, so that's what we should do.
Right.
But nationally, we don't do that in any of our tournaments yet.
Okay.
I want to people since we're kind of on the PRV Nationals topic, I just want to close with this. Not close, but close the Nationals talk and move on.
Right.
But a lot of people asked us for our listeners how we did. Anthony and I think we did team-wise about 500 overall with our mixed co-ed and then men's co-ed. Singles, I did about 500. I think every game we played, Anthony didn't do so hot in singles. Anthony is really tough with the rules, man. He can't get over the D line. Here's a good story for you. It was the second day of the co-eds, and he qualified. They squeaked in, and they're there for the first morning game. And I'm laying down, just hanging out. I'm watching it from the Airbnb, which is a 10-minute walk from on the hill in St. Louis. So I see Anthony, the first frame, the last ball. He has a window which is about just over the size of a ball. There's 2 balls, and then there's the Polino. And I hear him ask on the camera, how much room's between those balls? He wanted to shoot Polino. As soon as he made that call, I got dressed, brushed my teeth, and walked over to coach's game because I just couldn't for the life of me watch him try and call a PRV game. It's so miserable to watch. But we went about 500. We enjoyed ourselves, didn't qualify for anything, but we improved from last year, I would say, Ant.
I think I enjoyed more watching Jose play.
Yeah,
just watching him up in person.
In a perfect segue, because I wanted to close this out so I can ask Pat, because I think Pat has played against Jose in a singles the most out of anyone we know in the United States and Canada, and probably has played with him the most, more than anyone we know out of the United States and Canada. So Pat, how did you get to know Jose? What introduced you to? And how'd you start playing against each other and playing with each other?
Okay, great question. So Mike Grasser, I don't know if you guys know who Mike Grasser is.
Yeah, we do.
From Michigan. He used to hold a U.S. Plino d'Oro and a North America Plino d'Oro on the same weekend. So two single tournaments on the same weekend. And these weren't national qualifiers or anything. He just had the rights to the name of the title, U.S. Plino d'Oro and the North America Plino d'Oro. And he would host these tournaments. And that's where I met Jose. We played a bunch of tournaments competing against each other because they're single events, obviously.
PRV events or open events?
PRV.
Okay.
PRV. Yeah, so I am a U.S. Plino d'Oro champion, actually, because I did win that tournament.
Where was it at? What venue? Was it at that place that's no longer open?
No, the one I won was at Windsor, so it was in Canada, actually.
Okay, gotcha.
So the U.S. Plino d'Oro was in Canada.
Interesting. Makes sense.
Windsor, which borders Detroit, if for anybody that doesn't know, so we were really close to the border. Yeah, that was the first time I actually beat Jose. So I beat Jose in the semifinals there, and then I won the tournament against Jason in the finals. And the day before, we had the North America Plino d'Oro, and Jose won that, and he beat me in the finals. So I think my record against Jose is, I think I've played him around 20 times in singles, PRVs, and I've been lucky enough to win 2 of them. So
that's crazy.
Which is he's probably at least a 9-1 favorite against me. So I don't know if I'll ever beat him again, but yeah.
Well, you had your shot not that long ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, in Canada.
Yes, we played the finals of the Toronto 777 tournament.
You played a really great tournament.
Thank you. That was I thought that was a really well run tournament. I hear a lot of great things from it, and I hope you guys can make the trip next year.
Yes.
Yes.
I tried squeaking in this year. I messaged Valentina saying, "Hey, put me on the wait list. I'll see what if I can make it." And then
yes, that's right.
I checked,
And your
and
spot
then
opened up actually.
and then I checked the date the next day, and it's like, oh, I have a wedding. It's like no matter what, it's always something. I feel like that interrupts. But I tell you what, those Canada courts, I'd probably get demolished on, because all you would do is just drop, and then it's just it's going back to Ohio if you roll that thing. It's so fast, your courts.
They are fast. They're faster than Molizani. Not much faster than Molizani.
I don't know, man.
But but when you're 90 feet versus 70 feet, it becomes a little more trickier.
Absolutely.
You're not as straight as Molizani. So yeah, there's definitely a home court advantage. But still, Jose has won our. Us 777, we play right into Jose's strength. We want to give him 4 balls, PRV, let's play. And,
So with playing him so much, what's your like most memorable win with him?
Well, with him or against him?
With him.
With him would have been the first time we played Wycliffe together, which was 2013. We went to Wycliffe together. Me, another guy from Canada named Pat as well, and Jason and Jose. And we were in a loser bracket, but we won twice in the finals. So the first time we went, it wasn't my first time. I've been traveling there since I guess 2003. But the first time Jose went, we won that tournament. So that was probably the most memorable.
Against who'd you beat twice in the finals, if you don't mind, if you remember?
It was part of the Vander brothers, I believe. Pete was on the team for sure. I think Renato was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Pete and Tony might have been playing together, but I could be wrong. I don't want to start anything.
Yeah. What's cool is I wish I can go back and watch those games.
Right?
And I do go back. I know Wycliffe, they've done a good job. As soon as they could stream, they started streaming their championship. So I'll be able to go back on YouTube and watch those. But one thing that we've been able to bring to the table, as well as BBN and so many other guys now that are streaming, is you can go back and watch a lot of these streams, and it's great. Especially if you just want to learn the game and see how some of the best players in the world call. So that's pretty cool. Sorry, I know I interrupted there.
No, I don't think you interrupted. Go ahead, Pat.
So our 2017 win is on the stream.
Okay.
And I think I watched it like 2 months ago. Just getting ready for Wycliffe. I'll probably watch it again before. I'll maybe watch some other finals, but it's always great to watch yourself win the tournament.
So while we're on Wycliffe, I know you've won. You already mentioned 2013 and 2017. Have you? Are those the only 2 you've won there? Not only 2. I mean, it's so hard to win that tournament. That's extremely impressive that you have 2 titles.
You only won 2 there?
Yeah, you only won 2. I think I've made it to Sunday once. So, but
so I got like 4 third places, I would say, maybe 5. But there was a second. Once we went to the finals undefeated. It was me, Natala Scala, Mario Scala, and Mike Grasser. We went to the finals undefeated. And we lost twice to the defending champions, which was at the time Ezio and his father. Whoever else they had on their team at the time. So we lost twice in the finals. So that was kind of heartbreaking. And I think that was the only time I finished second there.
Yeah.
So
definitely a tough tournament to play.
Right.
Going back, I just want to add one last thing on PRV because you mentioned Kajini you had trouble getting over the D line. If I was part of the CBI, the first thing I would do is get rid of the D line.
Really?
The first thing I would do is get rid of the D line. It serves no purpose. Let people shoot as low as they want.
Right.
What's the purpose of making someone raise the ball? And I'll tell you that some of the great shooters, Nani or wherever, they would still shoot the same. They would still be out 15 feet. Because that's what they think is the best way to do it.
Right.
Why are you penalizing people that want to shoot shorter? I know they want to try to get rid of the bowling shot, like people just dropping it right under their feet. But that's not the best way to shoot anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
Shoot how they want.
Agreed. I feel like those people actually who drop it more towards our area actually have a disadvantage on 90-foot courts when shooting like that. So just let them do that, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, be better.
You're just eliminating so many players for this silly rule, which makes it tough on the spectators too. So there's too many lines on the courts. A lot of the players don't know the rules. Like the greatest thing about soccer is that there is only one rule. So there's only offside really. So that's why everybody can watch it. If you're into low scoring games, but
8 frames.
And that's so true though about the lines on the courts and all the rules.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Cugini's very analytical, and he's to hear that he has trouble understanding some of the rules is shocking to me. So if he has trouble, I know I would have trouble.
Like a chain reaction. I'm like, what? I'm like, I got the point. Like, just give me the point. Like, I know the ball move. Give me the point. Like, and then it's like secondary, and the guy takes. I'm like, no, but I know the rule better than sometimes the ref. I'm like, I had that foul over here.
Right. So they try. All the rules are geared to eliminate all the luck out of the game. Mm-hmm. But being a poker player. What attracts so many people to poker is the luck factor. So just let me play how I want to play, and let the best people win. So
there's luck in every sport. Every sport out there, there's luck. And you just have to put yourself in position to be the beneficiary of that luck. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. And I understand trying to eliminate it, like Backwall Live, for example. I understand why people might not be interested in Backwall Live. Because there's been a ton of times that we've lost games because, someone hits the Paulino back and, whatever happens, and they end up with 2 points and you're like, come on, you weren't even trying to do that.
Right.
So then you turn it into Backwall Dead. And that's one rule that can clean it up a little bit. But when you continue to try and just perfect it in that way, that's where I could see people just saying, nah, I'm good. I don't want to deal with that. There's too many rules to follow.
There's too many rules. When the players don't know the rules, and the players are the best refs. So it's like when you mentioned, let's train the refs. It's hard to get refs that really understand the game because it's a little confusing. And if they're good enough, they're probably playing in the tournament instead of reffing the tournament. So it becomes challenging. And then the spectators, again, you tell people they can't in this area here. They can only shoot volo, and then all of a sudden it's Poseidon and they shoot Rafa. And like, what the hell? Well, you just told me you can only shoot.
To your point, the fact that the D line is I think it's so new, given how old the game is, and you're telling me in 2001 they just added that rule, and the fact that the Italians seem like they are some of the best players ever in the world, and they don't even play the same volo role that we do.
Right.
That opens my eyes a little more, truthfully. To be like, okay, who the hell's who's in charge? What is the right? Here I am thinking, this elitist way. I say that because some people act that way when I was first introduced to PRV. It's this way. This is the perfect way. It's the only way. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Some of your rules were just added 15 years ago. Right. That's not.
Right. Well, they added the one about last year. Well, 2 years now.
The back wall one.
Back wall. Again,
pushing the ball into the
Explain it, Pat.
So before, if it wasn't 70 centimeters from the back wall, so 2.5 feet. If it wasn't, and you push the ball
for the Americans who can't read centimeters. Thanks.
I was
so you push the ball. You push the ball 2 inches into the back wall. It was a legal shot. So if you would reach hard on purpose, but again, the elitists, you want to call them elitists.
He said it too.
Hey, that's not skill, that's luck. Hey, that's luck. So let's eliminate that. So again, you're making something, you're adding a rule, you're adding a complication for no reason. So, I just think trying to be more simple. I love the call shots. I think call shots is good. Hit the ball that you're aiming at.
Mm-hmm.
People think they're 80% shooters. But in open they're hitting the wrong target, so maybe you're really only a 60% shooter, 75% shooter.
Hey, relax, Pat. Relax. All right. You just killed my whole. No, I'm kidding.
So it's important to. I like call shots for sure. With that said, open shots, there is a different position. So again, when I say PRV players have a different perception of the game, you might stand straight to shoot a ball, point ball, but in open, you got to stand on. You have to close the gap in order to try to get lucky, make your own luck. If you miss it, you're going to hit something else. So there is still some skill set involved in being in the right position.
Right. To add on to this, because I was watching last night some that former Kone match. He at the end of we always joke about this. Anthony is like, okay, how are we playing? If we ever caught ourselves in a singles match against Jose, what's the one thing we're just going to try to go balls to the wall, just try to beat him? And it's, if I got Polino, I roll the Polino and then shoot the Polino. Just right away, get everything to the back wall. Well, we joked about that, but I'm watching a match last night. Formicone does this. He rolls the ball right on the edge of the wall, right over the half court line, and then fucking Rafa's it to the back wall. I couldn't believe it. I thought we were just joking about it, but apparently there's some strategy to it. Pat, is that happen often?
Yeah, it is a play. I've never done it personally, but I know. Back when we hosted the Worlds in '94 or something here in Toronto, it happened at international level. That was the play. That the player would shoot the Polino against, it was D'Alessandro at the time. They would shoot the Polino right away, bring it to the back wall, and play from there. That
is a wild strategy, and I guess it adds up and makes sense. Another new strategy, or not new strategy, but new to us, and that happened last week in Nationals, was voloing the Polino to reset the round. Trying to volo the Polino just to get it out of there, which we would never think of, because one, we don't really volo a lot, and two, we shoot hard enough to just hit the Polino out on its own. But we saw that from a former Italian citizen,
Oscar.
Oscar. What's his last name? Diamore.
Yeah, great shot.
Oh my God! And he's played in the Worlds before.
It didn't even go out.
It didn't go out. Oh, you're right. It didn't go out. That's crazy.
So here in Toronto, you can shoot the Polino out, like you said. It goes out, flies out easily. In Montreal, when we play, it's much more difficult for the Polino to fly out. So it depends on the court surface as well. And I'm not sure. I've been to St. Louis, but I can't remember how easy it is to knock that Polino out. But usually in Italy, in those World Championships, because they have that sand, the courts are a little softer. The balls lose speed when you shoot. For them to knock it out, they have to go with this volo shot.
Gotcha. Well, we'll go ahead and close out PRV talk right there. For the
a lot of PRV talk.
No, it's perfect, because there really was so many people tuning in last week that figured it out along the way. But so I really think that was honestly some of my favorite conversation we've had on this pod. Was getting to know that a little more. But I want to hop right back. You were talking about the Cleveland Challenge Cup, how hard it is to win that and all that. We started keeping track of all the winners, or I tried going back in time, I guess, let's say that, to see. And you actually just helped me with 5 categories. You said your father and his team won 5 years in a row, give or take.
That was World Series.
World Series, excuse me. Yeah, World Series. Well, actually, that's what I meant to bring up, actually. So I started a spreadsheet here about a year and a half ago of all, quote-unquote, let's say, major winners. Because the World Series of Bocce dates back to 1974, Molisani 2007, Cleveland Challenge Cup 19, I'm trying to read here, looks like 84. So there's a lot of history there that is... we don't like to be forgotten. The one thing the Bocce brothers do is try to showcase all the winners over the years that we've started this, which I think we have about four years now worth of winners, and it's just going more and more, whether it be the smallest tournament, charity tournament, to the biggest qualifying tournament, whatever you have be. So the World Series of Bocce, though, is a tough one to crack because it's so old. It's been going on for so many years. So the 80s is something I don't have. I do have 1980, but I don't have anything else in the 80s. So that would be helpful, Pat, so we can record the winners in time.
All right, I'll see if I have any paper clippings from, because they used to post it in the paper there from in Rome when they won, and I'm sure you reached out to Brian Polans, who has...
Yeah. Oh, sure. I sure have. And he actually is the only other one that has access to my spreadsheet in the outside public. But I reached out to I can't think now, from World Series from Rome.
Right?
Bernie, and some and Tino and some other people, but some people just didn't keep track of things. And the goal is here to get all this tidied up, which we have a lot already. We're just missing, the 80s and some of the 90s, and then post it and have it forever for these names to kind of be immortalized, because it is a big deal to win some of these. If you see how long these tournaments have been going on.
If you're listening, what we're going to do is post what we have and what we're missing, and maybe some of you guys listening could help us fill the gaps in. So
good idea.
We'd appreciate that.
I'm sure you're going to find from the 80s and 90s that there's a lot of multiple winners, because which I'm glad that has been eliminated from the game. Is you never see it anymore. You always see a finals now, but before everybody would be like,
split.
Sorry, let's just split it. And
it happens still. It happens.
Wow.
I like that though. Depending on the situation, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Depending on the situation, absolutely. If it's 1:00 in the morning and the money's good, and I have to travel home, I'm down.
Or maybe I don't like the people running the tournament, and I want to just be like, yeah, screw you, we're good.
Yeah,
I would never do that though.
If depends on what tournament. If you got the sponsor there and you're not playing the finals, it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true.
But if it's a local tournament and there's 20 teams and it is late, let's just get out of here. I understand that. Mm-hmm. When we have qualifying tournaments here, we have a leaderboard here in Ontario and stuff like that, so we don't allow it. We got to play out your tournaments for points and stuff like that.
That makes sense. That adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, so you played Cleveland Challenge Cup. I've heard you say you've played at Molisani. Actually, we have a cool video of you with the cash in your hand.
Can you play that if I send it to you?
Yeah, I got you sent it to me.
That was for the unit, I think.
Yeah. That was I think the first time I met you a couple years ago. Maybe last year. I don't even remember.
So where else have you played in the States, if you have?
Well, I've been to California. I actually did a referee course on California. And
Campo de Bocce?
Yep. And Livermore. Is that Campo de Bocce? Yeah. And Los Gatos.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Lockport. I've been to Holly tournament this year. Seneca Falls. I'm going again this year. I'm recently taking some time off, so I'm going out to more tournaments lately.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Canada, a lot of you specifically, but I've seen more and more of Valentina, Extreme Bocce, the whole crew, just everywhere. Yeah, I love it. You're coming to Jerry's. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, coming to Jerry's. Yeah, excited about it.
That's great.
I have the video. I want to play it.
Oh yeah, go ahead and play the video. Switch it here. Before you play it, we got to kind of preface this, because sure, you won the tournament and it was money in your hand, but we also have, thanks to Rocco Ghieri and Jimmy Paisano, the betting, if you will, which I think this tournament you put right off the rip $1,000 on you, Jose?
So I was trying to manipulate the market at the time.
You are a professional gambler, damn it!
Yes, this makes absolute sense, though.
So it was the first tournament. I didn't know how much. It was the first time. Big shout out to Rocco for doing that. Love it. Adds extra excitement to the tournament.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what? Let me put $1,000 on my team. I think we're good. If the prize gets up to 3,000. That means we just got to win it once every 3 years to break even. So I think we're a favorite to do that. You're playing with Jose. What's the best time to put your money up is when you're playing with Jose. So I said, you know what? Let me do this. I'll give great odds to other teams. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I told Jose I was going to do it. No, Pat. No, that's not for me.
That's a good Jose. That's a perfect Jose impersonation. That's so good.
I said, Jose, I don't want to make money. I don't want to make more money. No, it's okay, Pat. It's okay. All right. If you change your mind, let me know, but not before the finals, okay?
Okay, so you ended up. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. So I had the whole 1,000, and the pool started growing. I can't remember how big it got. I want to say 4,500, maybe 5,000. So it got pretty big, and other people obviously still. Not only was I trying to give better odds to other teams, I was trying to deter people from betting us.
Right. Smart.
Right. So, if you're going, if you think you're one of the favorites, you should bet early. If you think you're one of the dogs, you should bet late.
Yep. Correct.
Right.
That's a good. Take note, folks on Facebook listening to this. That's a good way to bet. And then also give Biggie a call because he usually sprinkles it around everywhere.
this is all fake money. This is monopoly.
Monopoly money is all legal. Yeah.
We're just playing for points. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
it's all points.
So the unit was talking some trash, whatever. But man, I didn't know. I found out later when Rocco did the payouts that unit was trash talking us, but he was playing too because he actually had put some wagers on us too.
Of course, that's smart bet.
Right.
Smart bet.
I mean, I'm not surprised that a guy like him would talk shit and then bet on you. It just makes no sense. It fits him perfectly.
So go ahead and play that video. Let's go ahead and see it.
Let me switch here. I don't know.
This is at the end of the tournament. Hopefully there's sound. Unit out. See you next time, he says. Just walks with a wad of cash. That's amazing.
Great.
Amazing.
So what are some of your favorite tournaments in the States that you've been to?
I love Club Malzani. I love that club. It's a great tournament, great people. It's always welcoming. So I enjoy playing there. I try to get out there 2-3 times a year, I guess. I'm planning on going there in October and playing the BU final the week after. So they're back-to-back weekends.
There you go.
Yeah. So, well, as long as we get in, I guess there's always a chance that you get shut out. Are you guys part of the? You guys are part of the BU tour as well, right?
We
don't talk about that.
No, no, we just aren't in it for multiple reasons. I think Anthony is in it because he plays with some of the Chicago guys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he's in it and doing all that, but we are not in it this year. But yeah.
So Malzani for sure is top of the list, along with Wycliffe, just because that tournament's great. You know, it's one my wife likes to come to. My daughter, when she was younger, used to enjoy coming to that tournament, and that's why. Well, that tournament there is a perfect example why we don't have young people in Canada playing, is because we didn't have that. We had all indoor courts here. We had some of the best facilities, indoor courts, and you couldn't have young kids around. There's no point. Where are they going to be? So that Wycliffe and other outdoor venues is great for attracting kids and building a passion from a young age.
Right.
They're just even if they're not playing, they're playing in whatever, the sandbox, volleyball, whatever they're doing. At least they're around bocce, and eventually they may become bocce players. So go ahead.
Sorry about that. Just to that
No
point,
problem.
you know, Dante and I, we grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and there's like an Italian festival every week, basically in the summer. One of them's the Mount Carmel Festival in Lowville, Ohio, and I remember
Same weekend as Rome.
Yeah, same weekend as Rome. And we have ties to those guys, and they're great people. Shout out to the Romeos, the Carlsons, everybody there. They're just absolutely phenomenal. So whenever the Mount Carmel and Rome fall in the same weekend, we just we have to pick Mount Carmel for sure. But back to the story was, growing up, I'd go there and I'd see all the older adults play in this bocce tournament, and there's literally, it's in the center of the festival. They have one court outdoor, and then they have another court inside. But the court outdoor, there's people lined up all around,
surrounding the court.
There's stands. People are. It's packed, and we were able to stream it 2 years ago, and some of our best footage is from that, just because of the atmosphere there. And I remember being like, oh man, I grew up playing sport. We all did grow up playing sports, and being in that environment just invigorates us. So now that we're older, it's really cool to think back, as a child, wishing that I could play in that, and now I'm doing it. But it was because, we were around it growing up, and we had opportunities to be around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked me about bocce at the beginning. So I played bocce. I don't think I finished the story. Maybe I did.
I think
I started
I
watching my dad.
I probably interrupted you 14 times.
Keep going. Though, yeah.
I started watching my dad at 7 years old, and I really got into the whole bracket, and I would keep his stats, how many shots he missed or hit, and all that stuff. So that's maybe why I became a poker player. Who knows?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Counting cards.
So I played bocce till I was 18, and then I quit until I was 30. But I had that passion when I was a kid, and then once I got married, I had a very supportive wife, and I started playing again. So as long as you instill some of that passion when you're a young age, there's a good chance that they're going to come back.
Absolutely. What made you quit, if you don't mind me asking?
I got teased by my friends. You're playing bocce with the old guys.
Right.
So,
no, that's a real freaking thing, man. We grew up bowling. In our we lived on the border of two cities, and one city bowled, one city wasn't. One more town was a little more stuck up than the other, if you will. But we were from the other one. We're originally from the other town. Anyways, we bowled every Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. I bowled every Saturday morning until I was like freaking 18. Yeah. And barely any of my friends knew that I bowled because, like, why would they? They never did. They never went. I was in that league. They weren't. It wasn't something I really talked about. And that's the same sense with bocce, pretty much now when I'm 29.
Yeah, it's kind of viewed the same, like, oh, you play bocce, or you bowled. Like, yeah, it was fun.
And I'm damn good at it.
Right.
Semi-average,
so, yeah, so exactly. So I got teased a little bit, then whatever, start chasing girls. Then you settle down and you come
back. Well, I did some research on you, Pat. Don't be surprised, right?
Really?
Now, I heard that you were only allowed to play in the doubles league if you played with only your mother because of how the competition difference in Canada. Is that true?
So yeah, EBC, I guess they ran this. No, EBL. They ran this tournament, but it's a recreational tournament. They didn't really want to have too many good teams. They didn't want. Let's just say Jose wouldn't be allowed to play.
Yeah.
So the first, they wouldn't let me play, and then I convinced them to let me play with my daughter.
I love it.
So she played. She actually played pretty decent. She never played before, and she had to leave for work because I told her, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to be out. You can still work." But turns out we were still in the final four, and
oh my God! How old's your daughter at the time?
She was 18.
Oh my Lord!
She's 21 now. And then the following year, they said, "No, you can't play. You almost won with your daughter," but they let me play with my mother, which I'm really thankful for that. So, and we finished 7th.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Still very impressive.
Now, your daughter went to French-speaking school. Is that correct?
Wow, how'd you learn? Wow, okay. Yes.
Hey, the Bocce Bros do their research, man. No, Brian, I have to shout out Brian Polance. I reached out to him. I was like, all right, what do you got for me? What dirt you got? He told me he told me everything about you, man.
We heard you have an OnlyFans account. We heard
yeah, we learned a lot about you.
That's a joke.
Yeah,
great.
We learned you wipe front to back and not back to front.
Wow, way to go, Brian. Yeah, but so she played. She hasn't played since. I told her to play again, but I'm trying to get her to play with her boyfriend. But we'll see if they will.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get the youth in it. So all the research we've done, you made ESPN World Series of Poker, but it wasn't Texas Hold'em. What you aren't playing Texas Hold'em? You're playing some weird type of poker. Is that true?
So I'm a mixed game player. So I'm an old school poker player. So back before the poker boom in the late 90s, we kind of used to make fun of the tournament players because they were all losing players, let's say, and all the money was in the cash games. Mm-hmm. All the money was in the cash games, and they would be winning these bracelets and World Series poker, and there's only 40 people in the tournament or 30 people in the tournament. Then they would come play cash games and lose all their money. So so I was a old school player, but then poker took off with the Chris Moneymaker effect and all that, and I started playing tournaments as well. So I have like 7 final tables at the World Series.
That's amazing.
The ESPN footage is between me and Phil Hellmuth, if anybody knows poker. Phil Hellmuth is a poker brat. And
what year was this?
I'm gonna say 2004 or 5.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say about like 05 to 07, man, where we were into poker. We had Texas Hold'em tournaments in garages.
Right.
We had the glasses, because that's when the boom was for us, at least when we saw it on ESPN with the guys with the reflective sunglasses and whatever it may be at that time.
I'm a terrible gambler too, so like I'm always all in. Like, I'm always, let's shoot this. That's
Right.
That's
the best strategy for a novice player. Just go all in and don't let them outplay you.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a good Texas Hold'em player, but now I don't have neither do you, the attention span to sit down at a table for that long. That just sounds miserable. I'll tell people right away, I just don't really have the attention span for it anymore.
My longest poker session in a live game was like 36 hours.
Shut up. Get out of here.
So I'll tell you this: if you're playing for more than 18 hours straight, you're probably losing. They're trying to chase your losses. Yeah, that was a tough one. I couldn't do it at this age, but so 36 hours is my longest session. It was I paid for that for a few days.
Good.
When the poker boom did occur, right? Were you? How did you and like your the guys I assume are like in your group or whatever, like, were you excited about it, or what were your thoughts when you're like, oh man, this is getting pretty popular right now?
Yeah, it was very lucrative. Obviously, there's a lot of new players coming in. The game was not mastered. Let's put it that way. If you look at footage from 2004, 2005, we played so bad compared to the players right now.
That's crazy to think about.
The game has evolved so much, basically because of the internet as well, and people teaching and learning and mastering the game. Right? Yeah,
it's similar to Bocce, right? Like, or any other sport or any other game. Yeah.
Yeah, just the U.S. Nationals this past week was definitely the best quality U.S. Nationals to date for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the quality of play was really good, and that's talking to that. Or Wycliffe, you used to go to Wycliffe, there was only a handful of teams that could have won the tournament, even though there was still 100 teams in the tournament. But now there's at least 30 good teams that can win that tournament. Yeah. So the level of play has definitely got a lot tougher. Huh. Going back to poker, I became a team pro. So I don't know if you guys know about Poker Stars. I was a team pro in 2010 and 11 before Black Friday. I don't know if you guys know what Black Friday is, when the U.S. decided to make it illegal to play online poker.
Are you serious?
Oh, yes.
Wow. What year was this?
2010 or 11. It was
10, 11. And were you sponsored by Poker Stars?
Yeah, I was sponsored by Poker Stars. They would put me in some tournaments, and you get to keep your winnings. I had to write I wrote some poker articles in the magazines and stuff like that. So I was doing that. I remember. Then I remember at Wycliffe, actually. I can probably pull up the picture. I guess it was 2010. It was me with all the Koppel guys. Imagine that, because they're not big fans of me. But and they were all. I was giving out free swag, so they took all the Poker Stars hats.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Was Paisano there?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
But I think he passed. Well, he definitely passed away. His name was Mitchie or something. Mitchie, I think it was, and he wrote a poker article on me. It was in a Bocce magazine or something. But he wrote a poker
article. I'll have to dig that out.
Combining poker and Bocce together.
Really? Nice.
See if I can find calling analytical skills, let's say.
Yeah. That's pretty.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was back in the day. 2010. So I was playing Bocce, and I was also traveling for poker. I would go to World Series. I'd be in Vegas for 6-8 weeks straight. So you'd miss any tournaments there, but there weren't tournaments every weekend. There was only 4 or 5 that you put on your calendar that you were going to go to.
A little different now.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. And I know there's been some complaints. So we touched on it on our last podcast. Some people aren't happy with how many tournaments there are. Other people are. We are come back to it is, if the tournaments are full, what can you say? It is
exactly
what it is. You just have to pick and choose. I know I'm at a point right now where I definitely want to play in the majors, and then there's a few others that I really enjoy that I want to play in, and if I can attend others, I will. But it's just tough to balance that with your personal life and everything else.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough to balance everything. Everybody's at a different stage of life, right? So whatever works for you, and balancing that, you know. And sometimes, like, you look at somebody like Foreman Kona, who's the world champ, right, or who's been on top of the Italy for so long. He made a life choice. Like, he's at a tournament every weekend. He's practicing 3 times a week. Obviously his family time has got to be a little less than somebody else that might have went a different way in life, or with any athlete that decides to put all their time and effort into a sport. There are some sacrifices that are made to do that, and now we're making sacrifices too. There's so many tournaments where we want to play. We have FOMO. We don't want to miss any, and you just got to make sure you're balanced and the people close to you are taken care of.
Very well put. And
Absolutely.
I think some people not some people, everyone. You just said you prioritize the ones that mean a lot more to you, versus the ones that are just kind of thrown together. Or it's no secret there's a million tournaments in our area, Northeast Ohio, compared to probably most areas, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've heard. Now I want to gain your thoughts on this, because I've heard some people out of our area say this is like Ohio and then Western PA included, because I don't want to leave them out.
Right.
Because everyone just says Ohio, but there's a huge following in Western PA. They're just literally 15 minutes.
It's because they play in the Ohio tournaments.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
there's several good tournaments in PA,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Is that oh god, I did it again. Where was I going with this?
I don't know. I've been there before, though. I'm just happy it's not me.
Bring it back here. We were going with.
You don't want to leave the Ohio, Pennsylvania guys out.
No, yeah.
Play tournaments.
Yeah, we're talking about
prioritize which tournaments you want to play.
Yeah, so I guess there's just so many tournaments that you want to prioritize the big ones, as the little ones, I guess, that are thrown together don't mean as much, but
yeah,
tournaments that have been around for longer have hold a little more weight. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's yes, and that's could change. Like, for example, the Armstrong, when that started 10 years ago, that was just and it still is. It was about Cassis and representing his life and everything like that,
raising funds for cancer,
correct,
and so forth.
And
I'm coming this year.
Good.
Heck yeah! What
Awesome.
what day are you in?
I think Nico registered Friday night.
Wonderful.
Friday night. Okay.
But to go back on that real quick, that was more of like I want to say probably more of like a social tournament initially. And then with how many good bocce players there are in Youngstown, I assume, Cleveland heard about it. They started coming. And eventually, a lot of people consider that a major now. And, they had over 100 teams last year. They just built this brand new facility. It looks great, 6 courts. So tournaments could get to that, but...
Was it 100 or 80 teams?
It was. I thought it was 100.
Sorry, just didn't want to.
No, you're good. Either way, I guess the point I'm making is, there are certain like for example, the Slovenian tournament. People consider that a smaller one. I love it because there's a festival attached to it. And Pat, I don't know if you've ever heard of this tournament before, but it's in Cleveland at the Slovenian national home.
Karantavania.
I'm happy you said it because I couldn't pronounce it. Yeah. But it occurs in February. So to hear of a festival going on in February, for me, I was like, what are you guys talking about?
So cold.
But they have a banquet hall, and in the basement they have 2 bocce courts with a bar. And then outside they have tents set up. And it could be, whatever the temperature is, and people are just outside, inside. There's a band playing above you while you're playing bocce. People are jumping. And because beer or water spilling, that's falling down on you just a little bit, nothing crazy where it's affecting bocce or anything like that. But just the atmosphere is just it's a lot of fun.
It goes back to that competing, like being surrounded by people outside the game, the crowd,
right?
Right.
Absolutely. There's more. It's more than just the bocce tournament. Those are more of my favorite tournaments, like the JAC in Cleveland, Molisani. I've never been to Rome, but I assume it's similar to Cleveland Challenge Cup, Mount Carmel. Like, those tournaments where they add a little bit more atmosphere, those get me a little bit more juiced up than the ones that, you know, you have to sit around for 40 hours on a Friday, Saturday in, you know, a building that has these fluorescent lights and there's no music playing, or, you know, it's just kind of a little bit more bland. Even though those are still a ton of fun, it's just they're not like some of the other ones.
Yeah, it's different audience. So that Slovenian one, actually, the same video that you showed with when I did that video with the unit there, it was the same weekend.
Same weekend, right? Yeah.
Because Marco Rizzo from Italy was
Marco, our friend, mi amico.
He had so much fun at the Slovenian Cup. So, anyways, we made a point to come there Saturday morning. We didn't start till, I think our game was at 2:00 on Saturday. So I showed up at the Slovenian club at 11 in the morning.
Really?
Down in this basement, and everybody was fucking everybody was hammered. It was 11 in the morning.
Yeah,
and everybody was having such a blast. It was like unbelievable. And I guess Marco for sure has never seen bocce played like that before.
Yeah.
Like so many people having fun playing bocce.
It was so funny watching Marco. So we have at the Columbus Italian Club, which we belong to. We're trying to get more guys involved in these tournaments, right? And we know that the tournaments that include more of a festival atmosphere, they would have a little bit more fun at. And this one was a perfect one. So we put Marco on their team.
It was total by accident. Also, Marco was just so happy. He said, hey, when should he visit? Because I was his main contact at that time. He's like, when should he visit? I was like, well, probably best to come when we're like in a bocce atmosphere, because Columbus isn't really that compared to Cleveland and Youngstown and Western PA. So I was like, hey, come this weekend. There just so happens to be 2 tournaments, and we'll take care of you. And then he messaged me later on saying, am I playing in these tournaments? I was like, oh, do you want to? Like, yeah, now you are. Like, I just signed you up, and you're added to these teams.
Yeah.
But what we didn't know is how much better he was going to be than all these guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously he owns a bocce company, so we knew like his style of play was a little bit different.
Formerly played professionally, I think.
Yes, and like to see, and he would have acted this way if he played with us, I'm sure too.
Yeah,
but he's playing with guys.
Put the video, Chris. I just sent it to you.
All right, so I'll play the video, but to see some of his reactions to some of the throws and like the it was.
I think there was a volo shot that he hit or something.
He hit a beautiful volo shot. Chris was commentating and doing the
video. That's the video.
But we need to find the video of his one of our guys from Columbus rolling 10 feet past the Polino and him just biting his hand and cussing Italian, like being actually upset.
It was basically what Anthony does.
Yeah.
Who did he play the Molizani doubles with?
He played with John Panico. Is that right? Who also
John Panico.
They don't speak a lick of. They don't understand each other. One, although bocce is mainly just hand signals,
right.
But however, they just met. They don't understand each other. Marco's used to a way different way of playing.
Exactly.
I feel bad for my guy John too. I'm gonna be thrown in that situation.
We'll play the video right here. This is going to be the volo shot that Marco hit.
He's trying to go over it, and he hits it. Great shot by Marco.
Great shot.
And you have to realize, like, no
Nice
one.
call. What a call.
Yeah, it's a great call by Chris.
Great shot by Marco.
Come say Deech, how you doing?
I was pretty drunk.
Well, you don't like we don't see that when we play. So I'm sure a handful of players might. But now, after this last week, I've seen it a million times. I feel like, but like that right there is rare.
Absolutely. I mean, looking around while I was calling that shot, seeing people's reaction, like their faces and their eyes, like what the hell was that? Like it was cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
So we are an hour and 30 into it. We always end on a final question, but prior to that, I didn't know if there's anything else that we wanted to chat about.
I want to ask Pat. I feel like we've been talking. This has been such a great podcast, I want to say. And I'm not just tooting anyone's horn. I just think that it's been great natural conversation. A lot has been learned from myself. But I want to give you the floor here. We haven't given you, I feel like, much time to if you want to ask us anything or go more into your story also. I feel like we keep cutting you off on your story.
No. Well, I felt like my story came across. We talked about poker. We talked about which way I wipe, everything, right? but going back to for anybody that hasn't been to Rome on Friday night, unbelievable. Like the whole town is in Rome on Friday night at the bocce courts. I don't know how much beer is consumed on Friday night, but then Saturday comes along and there's only the players left. It's so
Really?
weird. Yeah, it's so weird. Everybody comes Friday night and then Saturday. Where did all these people go?
I
But
have heard about Friday night, like being that like a lot of spectators and people who aren't playing bocce are there. I have heard about that,
yeah,
and
it's
it
crazy.
being a great atmosphere and a good time.
Yeah. Questions I have for you guys? No, I know that. Was that your first nationals that you guys played? How did you enjoy that?
So technically, it was my third nationals with 2 years
Oh,
ago, 2020. What was it, 1 or 2, whatever it was. I was just a fill in on an open tournament for one day. I flew in, flew out one day with the ABC guys. Last year, Anthony's first time, we played in Chicago. We played a little PRV for our first time, and went well. I don't even remember how it went. Went okay for being our first PRV. And then this year, I felt like I was 10 times better, but still have 50 times to go, if that makes sense. You know, tough pool. I definitely felt confident. Like I felt like by the second day, I was able, if I wanted to, ref. I was able to coach confidently. One thing I noticed is that I always had a coach. I shouldn't say always had a coach, but I would ask like whether it be Alex Gara or Julian Batula to referee or coach me. I would always make the same call they would or have the same idea they would, which made me feel good making that I was making the right call, because as an open player, as we mentioned early in this podcast, way different way of thinking. It's way more mental when you're playing PRV compared to if you're always playing open, for obvious reasons. So overall, I would rate it a C plus, a B minus for how I played.
great. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like coaching. It's good to be confident in your own decisions, and going to the coach to validate your decisions in certain situations. But sometimes I feel like sometimes players get too dependent on coaches and they take their mind out of the game and they lose a little bit of focus. So it's definitely good to be in the game in the moment and playing your game, your style, because sometimes, as much as we have coaches, they're not professional coaches.
Right.
Sometimes they're calling games according to their skill level versus your skill level, and
Mm-hmm.
what you're good at versus what they're good at. So it takes a special person to coach a game, uh, but it seems like you had some good coaches, and it's good
Yes.
to feel like you made the same right decisions.
Yes. Anthony, how would you feel, I guess, overall after experiencing this year compared to last year?
Yeah, much more comfortable. I mean, once you start playing a little bit more. I mean, again, our closest synthetic courts are 2.5 hours away, so we're playing on dirt a lot, and then just transitioning over to synthetics is just a little different for us. And then that mentality of PRV, just getting into the gist of the rules and the different call shots, the 8 frames. I mean, it all comes together so fast. But
Yeah.
I think another year get better and better. I mean, just like with anything else,
Exactly.
more experience around it. So I do enjoy it. It's a break from the normal kind of play that we do
Mm.
around here.
Yeah. It's not a
Yeah,
crazy difference.
we're all playing the same game, but I guess we start appreciating the other person's skill level when we go to their court, and we appreciate what players can do and what calls they're making, and vice versa when people come to PRV, I would assume.
Yeah. Well said. Now
And bouncing over the Polino 15 times is great with
because
my
you
shot.
throw way too hard. Pat, you could attest to this. Yeah, this is a good question. Does our area throw a lot harder than the rest of the world?
I guess so. I'm one of the harder shooters up here, so they always tell me shoot softer, shoot softer.
One of us. One of us.
I have a hard shot too. Yeah, my balls go flying out just like anybody else's.
Anthony has to warn like 3 courts over that he's shooting because he barely skips it over that D line and he's whipping it. It's going to hit the top of the ball, take someone's eye out.
Yeah, me too. Going to watching that 2017 finals, I took a shot and it went flying. In Wycliffe, they have the grandstands there. It went flying right into the grandstands. No one got hurt, luckily. but yeah, injuries happen. Wycliffe is a perfect man. People aren't paying attention.
Wycliffe is wild. Yeah, it's wild. I got hit last
wild.
year with the ball, and it or 2 years ago. It hurt. It hurt.
Yeah, I got a story. I had a shot, and there was a Polino and the ball was right behind it, and it was on court 9, and the ball could go flying out. I go, if I hit this Polino, my ball's skyrocketing, and there was Capo Greco sitting down at the end with his girlfriend. I think it was his girlfriend at the time, maybe still is. And I said, "Tell those people to move." And he goes, "Nah, he's not going to hit it. I'm not going to move."
Sounds like Cap.
Yeah, it does. I love it. It really does. That definitely happened.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm only going to hit this ball 10% of the time. But man, you're taking a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. He was right. I missed it.
Oh my god! I thought you were
going the other
I know.
way.
I expected
That's
that
hilarious.
story to. I expected that story to be. Yeah, I hit it square, and it went in the stands. How do you feel about court 9?
Court 9 is a little different. Yeah, it's a little softer.
We all have that one friend.
Yeah. So it's usually the court 4s in most of the places because we only have 4 courts. It's always the last court that gets used the least. Here it's court 9. Yeah. Court 8 is a great court, but court 9 is.
Well, yeah, maybe it gets used the least, but also it's that's where most of the weather, if it snows,
Right.
if it rains, I will say,
sense.
the one year, maybe it was 3 years ago, it was really rough. But last year it wasn't bad. We played on it a few times, so that's what you want to see. Courts continue to get better. Hopefully, it's the same or better for this year. But
The first
Everyone
time I
plays
went
them.
first time I went to Wycliffe, there was 3 courts uncovered.
Really?
I've seen those pictures
And then-
of like the people around the final game with that
Right.
with those 3 courts.
Oh, that's pretty
And
crazy.
every year in Cleveland it rains for that tournament, and they had a tarp that they would bring over the court to protect the court for the game.
Oh, it's hard.
Did it work?
Tarp. It worked. Yeah, it worked. They were ready. It was kind of like the baseball game. They covered the infields.
And would it? And I'm asking this for a couple of reasons, but was it just covering one court or multiple courts, and did it cover the multiple courts successfully?
It was 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, they had
Wow.
a big tarp that they covered the 3 courts.
Wow.
so
Go ahead.
Sorry. So
No problem.
we're asking because at our Columbus Italian Club, Dante and I joined in 2016. And long story short, the way we played bocce was very different from the way they played bocce. And we're continuously, as well as Anthony's, as well. Anthony joined a little after us. But we're continually trying to improve, the way we're playing bocce, this and that. So like all the rules now are the rules that we want it to be by, how it should be played by Ohio standards, right? And for the last several years, we would get rained out on some days, and we would suggest a tarp. Basically, anytime we suggest something, somebody says, "Oh, we tried that," or "Oh, I had this idea and it didn't work." And it's like, okay, but how did you go about it? Who managed it? How was it set up? There are way more questions that need to be asked. Like, just because you tried it once doesn't mean, So that's like the on-running joke right now in our friend group is, "Oh, it's raining. Does anybody have a tarp they can put over the course?"
Yeah.
So that's why we were all.
So yeah, that
giggly
tells
there.
me it can work.
Right. Right.
I think they had something set up. Like there was a rope from one fence to the other that they had it set up where they could pull it or something like that. I can't remember the details, but I'm sure someone like Brian Polans can tell you that.
Yeah.
Ryan's got the info, man. He knows it all.
Did you watch? Sorry, we keep going on with this. I apologize if you have something to get to, but
No, I'm good.
did you watch the Breaking Balls documentary?
I did not.
You did not.
Really? Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Oh no! Oh, I think you're talking about Breaking Bad. Sorry.
Oh no! Which is also a good series.
Yeah, that's a good. Series.
Yeah, that's
You were probably
like,
like,
why are we
Chris, what
why
the
are we
hell?
talking about drugs?
Walter.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Breaking Balls. Yes. I did see it.
Well, I know. The reason why I brought that up, I was just thinking about how you mentioned you watched, some of your previous games at the Cleveland Challenge Cup and maybe some other championships, on the streaming. That's one I really like to enjoy before we go up to the cup. It just gets you in the mood to play.
Right.
But
for sure.
are you in that or no?
Yes.
No. Oh, he's in it.
I was here. Yeah, as the year, one of the years. Well, part of it was the year that we won, the 2013, I think,
Okay. All right.
with John.
Well, I'm gonna watch it again then, and I'll look out for you.
And
That's
then
awesome.
you're in it this year though. We got Jose, Jason, and then who's your fourth this year?
We got Nico Fox joining.
Nico, young Nico,
Wow.
getting the call up.
The young gun.
You think he's gonna be nervous playing with you guys?
He's going to be at the Jerry's World this weekend.
Is he really? Good. That's
Yeah,
good.
He's playing with
He's such a
Russell.
good he's such a good player for how young he is. It's pretty. He's going to be in.
I feel like he's at that age where he doesn't. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but when you're at that age, you're like, Dad, you can't tell me what to do. Mom, you can't tell me what to do. Like, I'm just gonna go out and
Right.
do whatever. Like, he has that confidence, right?
Yeah.
And his skill backs it up. But that's why I feel like I don't think he's someone to get nervous, just because.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's really looking forward to the opportunity. I'm excited to be playing with him. We're also playing with him at the MVR in Youngstown.
That's great. That's
Not the
awesome.
exact same team, but it's Jose and Mario from Toronto. Jason's not coming that weekend, but yeah. So I'm really excited to play with Nico. I've been talking a lot with him. He came to our Toronto tournament, the PRV tournament. He had a good tournament. He's really looking forward to next year because he struggled with the D line a little bit. He's been working on a shot to get it over that D line, but you can't sacrifice your open tournaments as well because he plays so many open tournaments. So just finding that right sweet spot.
It comes down to adjusting. The best players adjust, and that's
Right.
that. It really is that. It comes down to that.
Yep. You have to have multiple shots in your bag.
It's like golf. Different clubs. I always say that for the novice players. That in Columbus, they're like, oh, well, how come sometimes you shoot this way, hand over, and sometimes you shoot hand under? And the best way for me to explain to them, because they don't play a lot of bocce, is just like, think of it like a golf club, like your 9-iron versus your 6-iron or whatever the case may be. You're just trying to, depending on the situation, you need it for that. And that seemed to. He said we joined in 2016. Yesterday was 2 days ago. When was Monday? 2 days ago. I had a moment just by watching the league unfold in front of my face. I was watching games sitting right there by courtside, and I saw player after player on each court take a shot and Rafa or botch the ball out. And we're 8 years ago, whatever it was, 7 years ago.
Even like 3 years ago, you wouldn't see that.
Everyone yelled at us for doing that,
Yeah.
and cursed at us, and would challenge the rules of us hitting the ball out, and so much
Right.
stuff we had to go through. And but to see it where it's at now and see people it's exciting.
Oh yeah, and what excites me is they like it. I'm like, I think shooting is the most fun part of bocce, and just to see them get excited about it, it's like, all right, we're making some movement here. It's it's good.
Yeah, definitely. Sticking a ball is the most.
Yeah.
It's so great. You don't if you watch Italian bocce, you really don't see that much. They all shoot overhand, which is so the ball spins because they have to protect the back wall. The courts are so good. So when they used to only play on dirt, it was harder to shoot Polino down. But now they're so good at shooting Polino down that you need to protect the back wall, and not only protect the back wall, you need to. Sometimes you got a ball in the back, but you're only protecting 10% of the back wall, and the other guy owns 90% of the back wall. So you have to take that into consideration when you're making calls too. So that was taken out of the game because people shoot backhand, the other guy shoot Polino, and it wouldn't work. But in open bocce, it's a little different because there is no good advantage of shooting the Polino down unless you're playing backboard dead. But in open rules, you shoot the Polino down, big deal. The guy just shoots the ball at the back wall. They're not under that pressure
Right.
of trying to point at the back wall. But going back to shooting and Jose and adjusting, Jose, if you look at him, you'll eventually adjust to every court where you start sticking balls.
Yep.
So you'll drop a ball lower, then by second game he realizes he needs to get this close to the ball when he's shooting, or and he adjusts. It's incredible how he adjusts his shot to the courts at every tournament.
That's what I bring up. That's literally why I bring it up, is whether it be the foot roll, how many steps you can take, crossing the line, back foot, whatever it may be, the D line. He always adjusts. You never hear him bitch or complain ever. And you always see him at all these tournaments. And it's so exciting to see you guys, along with Jose, show up to these tournaments more and more. Because it just means the game is at an all-time high, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's very exciting. Very, very exciting, in my opinion.
I want to watch the best, and hopefully we could get there one day.
We want to play the best,
Yes, absolutely. And to see you guys, I've watched you guys on stream. But there's been several times in the recent years, whether it's Molisani or the Cleveland Challenge Cup, where it's just fun to go over and just see how some of the better players adjust and play and call the game. So definitely appreciative of you guys coming down. It's fun to watch.
Taking our money.
Yeah.
Well, I don't belong in the same words with Jose for sure. Like I said, I got 10% chance to beat him. He's at a completely different level. He's a world-class player, and I'm just one of the guys. But yeah, it's great to have him out and playing. I'm very fortunate to have played with him and against him. I enjoy playing against him just as much as I play with him, and it's great to have him there. I always want the best players at the tournaments too.
Yeah,
without
you could kick his ass in poker though, so. Take that, Jose.
Definitely
could. All right. So one question we like to wrap up our podcast on is your favorite bocce memory. Previous guests have mentioned whether it's a specific tournament they really look forward to that they really wanted to win, or Anthony, for example, one of his is winning a tournament with his grandpa or his dad, or I know we won one right shortly after his grandpa passed away, so that was very special to him. So, like, for you, what would you consider maybe some of your either one or a couple of your favorite bocce moments?
Well, the most sentimental was definitely my first Plino Dodo. My dad, who was a professional, well, not professional, was a top player, and my uncles. As much as I won a bunch of single tournaments, they never saw me win a single tournament. They all passed away before I won. And it was 2 years after my dad passed away, I won my first Plino Dodo. And, I had some talks with him before the games and this and that. And definitely that was the most memorable tournament that I ever won.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people have similar stories to that. And it goes back to how we were raised in this bocce community, the things that we were really excited about watching our parents, our grandparents, or whoever it was play. Them bringing us into that, and now we either win with them or win after they pass, and it's just like there's just that special moment that I don't know really how to explain it, but it just, like, for us, I almost choked up when we won with Anthony after his grandpa passed away, just because I know his relationship with his grandpa reminded me of mine with my grandpa, made me think of him, This one beautiful thing about this sport is just how it brings not only family together, but everybody else. So,
yeah, it's very special. I love playing when my mom comes to watch. She comes to some of these tournaments, and it just brings her back to the time, because she used to be at so many tournaments with my dad, and it's very special. Is that she says I have the same mannerisms as my dad, only in the bocce court. But when I play, I have the same mannerisms. So he sees my dad when I play. So that's great. That's very special.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, Pat, I think 2 hours, man. This has been.
It's been the
awesome.
most natural 2 hours I think I've recorded in a while. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Honestly, it was a great conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be on. I want to wish all you guys the best, and it's like July 4th in an hour.
Yeah.
So, salute.
There you go. Drink up. So cheers. And I guess, Anthony, I'll see you in Jerry's Rule.
I'll see you in 2 days.
Yeah.
Hey, best of luck. Hopefully, Anthony will have to talk with you offline about streaming, but hopefully we'll be able to watch you from afar. So,
Salute, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Take care.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Pat.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.